It's not a pleasant experience to live between desire and materialization. It's a frustrating place at times. It can be a debilitating place at times. It can mess with your sense of self, and at times even your sanity and even your confidence spiritually. There are things in our lives that we thought should have happened by now and would have happened by now, and we know could have happened by now, only to discover that what could have happened and should have happened and that which we have desired and longed for, sometimes worked for and prayed for. Friends, there are times in our lives where we have to endure the painful, endure the strong, endure the frustrating season of living in the not yet. And that is the sentiment of Solomon as he shares with his son that waiting is a nauseating experience. Nobody likes to wait on their check. Nobody likes to wait on people to come pick them up. Nobody likes to wait too long for your food in the restaurant. Nobody likes to wait to figure out what time your significant other is coming home. Nobody likes to wait to see what kind of grades your child has as they're hemming and hawing about what happened in school. But friends, the reality is that while waiting can be nauseating, waiting is also necessary and developmental. All I'm simply trying to suggest, the simple central truth of this lesson, what your pastor calls the take-home truth, is this, y'all: God allows and uses seasons in life where we live between desire and materialization to develop our faith and bring us closer to him. Did you catch what I threw? I want to say it again. I said God allows seasons in life where we have to live between desire and materialization to develop our faith and bring us closer to him. What am I supposed to do with the sermon pointer? Here's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to properly process my time of waiting and grow through enduring it. I know you don't want to wait on a new job. I know you don't want to wait on a season of retirement. I know you don't want to wait on him to pop the question. I know you don't want to wait on the healing to manifest. I know you don't want to wait on God to show up strong. I know you don't want to wait on God to handle your enemies. I know you don't want to wait on God to make a way. But friends, there is something in you that is being blessed and developed and helped and matured while you wait, and God will never give you a blessing too early, because God is more interested in your character than in your condition. God allows us and uses these seasons in life where we have to live between desire and materialization to develop our faith and bring us closer to him. That's what the proverb writer is saying here. Hope delayed, deferred, makes the heart sick. The nauseating, emetic experience of waiting, but when the desire comes, it's a tree of life. Can I suggest to you that you are blessed in waiting before you are blessed in receiving? And right here in this small poetic couplet, there are a handful of blessings that waiting gives us that ought to help us to hold on and wait, even though we don't like to. Look at it. It begins, friends, with hopeful expectation. That's where the text begins. Watch that first word. It's hope. Waiting means I have hope. If y'all will cross the bridge in Little Rock, I would tell you, when I slow down, that's the good part. Let me try it one more time. Waiting means I have hope. Waiting means there is something or someone that I am waiting on. And what you and I don't grasp often is that hope in itself, of itself, and by itself is a blessing. Because people who live without hope are people most miserable. It is when I stop waiting. It is when I cease to anticipate a better or brighter tomorrow. It is when I get to the place in my life where I no longer expect things to get better, that I find myself in a condition where I am open to anything, open to everything, and I can be taken advantage of by people and Satan, friends, because a life without hope, a life without waiting on anything is a life that has nothing to live for. Listen to me, church. We're struggling in a society where people believe that to have expectation is somehow to live foolishly. In fact, there was a study done in 2016 called The Social Contingency of Momentary Subjective Well-Being. That's a long title for a simple study. It is the science of low expectations. And the culture said that the study brings about this truth from the culture. Listen, that the easiest path to happiness is to expect very little. The culture says, I'm not going to expect anything. The culture says the world is going to hell in a handbasket. The culture says people are broken. The world is falling apart. Therefore, we should just do whatever we want to do in the moment of the moment. But hope, friends, puts parameters on my behavior. Hope makes me selective about where I spend my time. Hope makes me selective about who I spend my time with. I'm not arrogant, I'm selective, because hope says that I can expose myself and my spirit and my soul to everything and everybody. I've got to have some conditions, some boundaries, some healthy places with lines that cannot be crossed, because I need people to help feed my hope. I need friends to help hold up my hope. I need folks in my life that are going to help me to maintain my hope. I need people around me that will remind me that hope is worth holding on to. Hope, the Bible says in Hebrews, is an anchor of the soul. I'm not going to succumb to the culture's temptation to live with low expectations. You know what hope does? It provides, lean in, ready? It provides anticipatory energy. Hope provides anticipatory energy. It gives me something to live for and look forward to, so that when I'm going through the humdrum, mundane seasons of life where nothing seems to be happening, though nothing is happening around me, I have something fueling me to do what I'm supposed to do, and hope is what's telling me it's worth getting out of bed in the morning. I don't know who I'm talking to now, but I need to tell somebody, you need to get your hope back. You stopped waiting, you stopped wishing, you stopped praying, and you decided that it wasn't worth it. All the seasons and times of disappointment where it didn't happen. But friend, you can't put God on your clock, your calendar, and your schedule, because sometimes the blessing is not in having it, the blessing is in hoping for it. Did you hear what I said? Sometimes the blessing is not in possessing it. Sometimes the blessing is being patient in it. And God sent me to tell somebody, what you had laid down, where you laid down your hope, go back there and pick it up. Where you laid down your expectation, go back and pick it up. Where you laid down the anticipation of a better life, a better future, a better tomorrow, God said, go back and pick it up. Get your hope hope back again. Start looking forward to life again. Start anticipating that something good is going to happen in my life, because if you have a hopeful expectation when the winds blow and the storm rises and life gets hard, you can keep pressing, because something inside of you says this too shall pass, and my weeping may endure for the night, but joy is coming in the morning. I've got hope. Hopeful expectation. That's the first blessing. Gives me something to live for. But there's another blessing here in the text, and that's the blessing of delayed gratification. Whew. Watch that word, hope deferred or hope delayed. In the Hebrew, it literally means hope stretched out. It's stretched out hope. It's hope that has had to lengthen itself for the season it's in. It's 2-week hope made to become 2-year hope. It's knowing chronologically it should have happened already. But spiritually, God permits or prevents the delay, or God permits or produces the delay for the sake of you having to stretch out your hope. It's what gives me, lean in, the ability to practice the spiritual discipline of contentment. I don't know if you understand how important contentment is. Contentment is better than happiness, because happiness is based on happenings. But contentment is not based on happenings. It is the Apostle Paul who writes to his son Timothy in the faith and says, with food and clothes therewith, let us be content, for godliness with contentment is great gain. It's Paul who demonstrates this in his own life when he writes to the Philippian church in chapter 4 of his epistle. He says, I've learned how to be full and how to be hungry. I've learned how to be abased and how to abound. Everywhere and in all things, I've learned how to handle life on all the extremes and all the in-betweens. And that is the context for him saying, I can do all things. Woo, I wish I had church here. Through Christ who strengthens me. It is delayed gratification that gives us the opportunity to practice the spiritual discipline of contentment. Contentment allows me to be at peace before it happens, or at peace without it happening. Contentment says, I've got hope, I've got expectation, but I'm not waiting on materialization in order to feel or to have a sense of stability. I am not waiting on it to happen before I'm confident in who God is and therefore who I am. I'm not waiting on it to happen for me to have a sense of joy in my life. I'm not waiting on it to happen for me to have a sense of thankfulness and gratefulness to God. Some of us struggle because we are waiting on one thing and miss the blessing of all the other things that God has done, and the lack of the one thing keeps us from thanking God for everything else. I wish y'all were in here with me. So what I've got to learn how to do is to learn how to feel stable without it, to feel stable without a person calling me booth, without a job paying me what I think I'm worth, without the degree being in my hand, without the dream house and the dream car, without the applause and the appreciation of the people I've helped, without people patting me on the back and telling me what a good job I'm doing. I've got to learn how to live where I am with what I have, with things as they are, and say, this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. Listen, I know we live in the Western capitalistic society that says that you should have the life you dream of and the things you want. But friends, you can have all the things you want and still not have the thing you need, because money does not give you contentment. And when you get the house that you've been dreaming about, that's not going to give you contentment. And when you drive the car you want, or you got a collection of cars that you're choosing to drive, it's not going to give you contentment. And you can be laying in bed next to the finest person God ever made, but that's not going to give you contentment. It's not the stuff you have on the outside, it's who you know and what you have on the inside. And you and I have the privilege of learning how to be content, because God makes us stretch out our hope. It's Daniel Scully who holds the world record for the longest plank in history. Y'all know what a plank is, don't you? It's that exercise where you are on your generally elbows and toes in a plank position. And it's an unusual exercise, because when we think of weight training, generally we're thinking of moving weight from one point to another point. A motion of moving a weight, lifting a weight. But this is an isometric static hold exercise. Daniel Scully stayed in the plank position for 9 hours, 30 minutes, and 1 second. And while many of us admire people who have the show muscles, the people you follow on IG who are IG models, they have the show muscles. They have biceps and triceps and traps and shoulders and pecs and quads. But Daniel Scully is probably the strongest man alive, because without the show muscles, what he has is the strongest core in history. I wish y'all were in here with me. And I'm saying to you that other people might look better than you because they have the show blessings or the trappings of success externally. But what God does through waiting is put us in the spiritual plank position to develop the core of who we are. Because if you take away the car, who are they? And if you take away the house, who are they? And if they get kicked out of the fraternity or the sorority, who are they? And if they don't have the social standing or the political position, who are they? But some of us will testify because we've been broke before, and we've been put out before, and we've seen eviction notices before, we've had cars snatched before, we've been fired before. But God put us in a plank position to develop the core muscles so that what you give me doesn't make me, and what you take from me can't take away from me who I am in God. Do I have a witness in this house? Somebody ought to say, thank God for the core. I've got peace in my core. I've got contentment in my core. I got joy in my core. I can worship from my core. I can dance from my core. I can praise from my core, because without all of the external trappings, I've got internal resolve that God has strengthened me through the waiting process. I gotta go. It's too late. We gotta go. There's hopeful expectation. There's delayed gratification. Hope deferred. Now, I'm not saying that the process is easy. It's painful. It's frustrating. It makes the heart sick. But when the desire comes, it's a tree of life. But desire fulfilled. There's hopeful expectation. There's delayed gratification. Finally, friends, and I bid you good morning. Go have some good brunch. There's joyful manifestation. Joyful manifestation. The writer here appropriates the physical tree of life, as many Hebrew poets did, to speak of a sense of well-being or blessing. He's using it poetically. to speak about what fulfillment feels like. It feels like, proverbially, the tree of life. What tree of life is he referring to? He's referring to the tree of life that was a part of the Garden of Eden experience for your daddy Adam and your mama Eve. It was the tree of life that was there in the middle of the garden, that was one of the trees that was not forbidden, that they could have partaken of, but instead, through deception and satanic trickery, they instead took of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the one that was forbidden. And as such, God, in God's grace and mercy, expelled them from the garden, cutting off their access to the tree of life, because the tree of life was the tree of eternal life. Had Papa Adam and Mama Eve eaten of that tree, they would have been perpetuated in their sinful state and therefore beyond the pales of redemption. And so God kicks them out of Eden and puts an angel with a fiery sword to guard the garden, and most of all to cut off access from the tree of life. But within the story of Eden, there was not just the reality of a loss of access to the tree of life, but because of the promise of God for human redemption, there was also an anticipation of a reintroduction to the tree of life. We see that coming about. That idea is written about in the book of Revelation. That once again, humankind that once lost access to the tree of life will have it again in the end, through redemption, through the Lord Jesus Christ. And when we enjoy the privilege of having these raggedy bodies glorified to be like Christ's resurrected body, we will then have access again to the tree of life. That tree will be in the middle of the New Jerusalem that has a crystal river flowing down the center of it. It will not need a sun to light it, for Jesus himself will be the light of the city, and that tree will have fruit that we can enjoy, and the leaves of that tree, according to Revelation, are going to be good for the healing of the nation. So here's the Hebrew poet now taking the concept of the tree of life that we do not have access to, and the tree of life that one day we will have access to, appropriating the concept to say that fulfilled promise in time is a preview of that fulfilled promise in eternity. So that whenever God does something now, it is a slice, a taste, a piece of the tree of life that is to come. Let's try it another way. Some of y'all have country folk. You remember that when Big Mama, Grandmama was cooking a pot of greens, that the greens wouldn't be done yet, but sometimes Grandma would take a little cornbread and dip it in the pot liquor. Y'all know what pot liquor is? Pot liquor is the juice that's running off them cooked greens, and Grandma would dip that cornbread in the pot liquor and let you taste the pot liquor. The greens weren't done, but you knew the greens were good because you had a little taste of what they were going to be like when they were done, because the pot liquor was a preview of the greens, which were the main attraction. God, from time to time in time, gives us manifested promises that give us a taste, a preview, something to help us to continue our eternal anticipation with some temporal blessing. Every now and then, God will do something in your life that will be a foretaste of glory divine. And 2 or 3 of us will testify that it's not heaven, but it's a preview of what heaven gonna feel like. I'm talking to somebody here that's been waiting and waiting a long time, and God told me to tell you, when he shows up, when he speaks up, when he does it, you're going to get a slice, a taste of that preview, that coming attraction of glory. And 2 or 3 of us knows what it feels like to have God show up after a long period of waiting, show up after you've struggled, show up after you've cried, show up after you've been holding on, show up after you thought maybe it's not going to happen, show up as you were saying, God, are you sure you're still listening to my prayer? Show up when friends turned their backs on you. Show up when family members called you crazy. Show up when nobody was on your side. Show up when people said it would not happen. And when it does happen, then you can lift your hands and say, it just tastes like a little bit of the tree of life. Good morning, New Hope, and God bless your heart. But between the tree of life in Genesis and the tree of life in Revelation, in between, on a hill called Calvary, there's the tree of death. And if you're going to get to the one in the end, having lost the one that was in the beginning, you got to stop by the tree of death. Because since Genesis 3, humankind had an hopeful expectation. Genesis 3:15, God said the seed of the woman is going to bruise the serpent's head, and the serpent is going to bruise his heel. And then through the patriarchs and through the prophets and through 400 years of silence, there was delayed gratification because they were waiting on the manifestation of the one that would redeem. But I'm glad today that in a stable in Bethlehem there was a joyful manifestation came down through 42 generations, came down through the seed of Adam, through David as the seed of Abraham. Jesus came through, y'all, and Jesus is the manifestation of the prophets and the hope of the patriarchs. Jesus is the manifestation that God will still redeem. And he was joyful on that first Christmas morning. I heard the angels started singing, glory to God in the highest, peace on earth and goodwill towards men. Now good morning, y'all, but can I borrow your hand just one time? Can I get you to turn and wave at somebody and say, neighbor, keep on waiting. It may seem hard, you may have to cry, you may get frustrated, but keep on waiting, because you can't carry God. You just gotta wait. You gotta be patient and give him time. No matter how long it takes, he's a God that you can't hurry, but he'll be there. Don't you worry. He may not come when you want him to come, but he's always right on time. Is there anybody in New Hope this morning that will say, I'm waiting on the Lord? Storm can rise, but I'm going to keep on waiting. Friends get few, but I'm going to keep on waiting. Pain in my body, but I'm going to keep on waiting. Trouble all around, but I'm going to keep on waiting. Trial and tribulation, but I'm going to keep on waiting. Don't know what tomorrow holds, but I'm going to keep on waiting. But somewhere I read that they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. You'll mount up, on wings as eagle. Run and not be wearied. You will walk and not faint. Do me one more favor. Wave at one more neighbor and say, neighbor, whatever you do, keep on waiting, because God will come through after a while. Do I have a witness here? Yes, he will show up. Yes, he will supply. Yes, he'll heal your body. Yeah, he'll make a way. Yes, He'll open doors, men slam in your face. Yes, he'll make everything all right. Do you believe it? Say yes. I said say yeah. Yeah. Lord, I want to holler. Yeah. Yeah.